Go. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Connected Kinesiologists Monday meetup for Monday, June the 28th. And this evening we have with us Deanna Langford. And Deanna is joining us from the personal training and group fitness instructor world. She is the founder of Deanna Langford Coaching. She's a part of the Certified Professional Trainers Network. She's a course conductor and a practical assessor with CPTN. She's a professor at Sheridan College, and she's been educating and certifying fitness leaders and personal trainers for over 25 years. As a certified personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and a life and entrepreneur coach practitioner, Deanna has a passion for creating classes and programs in which people feel successful, seen, and safe. So welcome to our meetup, Deanna. It's very nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Yes, we've chatted a couple of times now, talking about your background and the variety of directions that your career has gone in. And perhaps we'll start with you giving us a little bit of background of how you got into personal training, group fitness leadership, and how that's kind of evolved into your full-time career.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was that sounds really, when I was quite young,
Quite young.
but when I was quite young, it'll be a really quick story. I was involved in martial arts, and martial arts sort of took me in the way of using fitness for, competition and, bettering skills and whatnot. And one day I tagged along with my mom in between martial arts things to a group fitness class. And I remember just standing in the back of the room thinking, oh my gosh, all of these, it was all women at the time, all of these women are having such an amazing time. And there's nobody competing and they're all laughing. And it was the moment of, wow, physical activity can really build community and be so powerful to connect people. And that's what started to draw me, not away from martial arts, but in addition to say, I need to explore this whole kind of group fitness type of thing. And so it was at that point that I started to look into becoming a group fitness instructor. So I did that, just in my later teens. And that was kind of step one of the entrance into the fitness field as such.
Oh, very interesting. And so what kind of classes were you drawn to once you became certified? What were your favorite ones to teach?
Well, I think, so it was, when was it, early 90s? So we were, hardcore step aerobics.
Yeah.
We were still into, grapevines and V-steps and all that great stuff that I still love. And so I think those were probably the classes that were the most popular at the time.
I remember being in university and going to a local gym
Yep.
and fumbling through a step class. And
Yep.
it was that experience that prompted me to become a group fitness instructor, because I thought, if I could lead this class, then I can't mess it up.
Right, you can do whatever you like.
I can direct everybody.
Totally.
But yeah, the step classes were great fun, and I still pull out my step today, actually. And if there's a great song on the radio, or if I happen to just pop something in my ears, it's always a good kind of interlude to get the blood going at the beginning of a workout or something.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. I know we need to bring those step classes back.
We do. There we go. So where did you go from there? You started with group fitness in your late teens, which was, really good.
Yeah, so late teens, early 20s. And then I had been in university and was thinking, what is something that I could do? I was still running a martial arts studio, but what else could I do? And I knew they needed instructors on campus where I was. And so I, kind of taught a little bit there. And then when I finished university, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. I had a couple of sort of options, and we were just closing the martial arts studio. And so, at a crossroads, which we often are. And the location in which I had done my group fitness training, they were looking for some fitness staff. So I thought, oh, okay, I can open the gym. I can be there. I can supervise a weight room, right? So that was kind of the first job just after university, looking for something to start paying some bills and get some experience, right? Because that can be so tricky. And that was how I started. And I was actually at that, with that organization for 22 years. So, and I, you know, ran their gym,
Wow.
all of that piece as well. So yeah, it was interesting. I guess the rest they say at that time was history, right?
Yeah, yeah. So what was your university background?
Yeah, so it was actually hi. So it was actually a Bachelor of Arts in the area of emphasis of psychology, actually. So I did a lot of psych
Oh, interesting.
stuff, yeah, which was very interesting. And when I actually began all the coaching work, it was like, oh my God, it blended right back into all the psych stuff I did in
Yes.
university. So that was really, it was, you know, a 20 some odd year gap, but it was very interesting to, you know, reconnect all those dots.
Oh, very good. Very
Yeah,
good. We have a couple people joining us here, and I think what
awesome.
we'll do is we'll pause our discussion, Deanna, and just give Emma a chance to say hello and introduce herself, just to give you a background about the direction of where these couple of people are coming from. So
Yeah,
go ahead, Emma. Thanks for joining us.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, no, that's totally fine.
I
You're
was
not late.
barbecuing.
Oh, nice. Very good.
um, so my name is Emma. I graduated kinesiology from Guelph-Humber in 2018. I'm writing the test in September. It's finally been booked, so that's exciting. Right now I'm doing a student job at the Sunshine Centers for Seniors in Toronto, which is a nonprofit, and I'm running like their virtual camp this summer.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you involved in teaching fitness classes for leading fitness classes for the seniors, exercise?
There's like fitness components, but it's kind of more like just like the recreation programs. So like arts and music and
Oh, fun.
things like that. So yeah,
Oh, great. Oh, well, you might really enjoy this discussion.
yes.
Yeah, we're going to touch on some of that there. And Catherine, hi. Thank you for joining us.
Hey. So I graduated a little over a year ago from Western. I wrote the exam in September before everything got canceled. And yeah, managed to get a job as a RCAN and receptionist at a physio clinic in Sarnia where I live. So that's what I do part-time.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Yeah.
We were just introducing Deanna and getting a feel for her history as a fitness leader and then moving into supervising fitness centers or a fitness room, I guess, a fitness facility. And then the follow-up question I had for you, Deanna, is I think you and I were kind of first on the scene when personal training became a thing in the early 90s, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and when you realized, wait a minute, this is a thing that I can actually get paid to do?
Yeah, and you know, it was so interesting. So I worked at the YWCA, and the YWCA used to have its own certification. Like we had fitness theory, we had a strength training module, we had and then we developed a personal training module. And
Oh,
so, and that was because there wasn't, well, just launching was CPTN, for example.
mhm.
And so we had our own cert. So I did my certification then. And I remember people saying to me, personal training, like, what do you think you know Oprah? Like, so you're going to have somebody like that be able to pay you to personal train? Only
Famous
famous
clients.
people can do that, right? And I was like, no, you know what? Like, people need one-on-one support in the gym, you know. And it was just so funny to see how it was met initially, and now, you know, it's so common, right? So yeah, it was kind of funny.
It's really funny because I used to have my own fitness center in a small town, Bancroft, north of Toronto. And I remember one of my new gym members coming to me and saying, can I book a personal training session with you?
Okay.
And I said, sure, but you have to tell me what that is because I have no idea what personal training is. And she said, well, in Toronto, she worked for Xerox. So at Young and Finch was the
Okay.
big corporate Xerox center, and they had a corporate gym. And they had full-time staff there that would work one-on-one, do group fitness, corporate wellness.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you work together with me on my own and help me through my exercise program. And I said, sure, I can do that. And I said, well, what would you, she goes, well, what's your rate? And I didn't say, I don't know. I said, well, what do you pay in
What's your budget?
Yeah. Budget, exactly. And she said, well, I pay $45 for an hour. And I thought her fitness membership was $55 a month at the time. And I said, that works for me. How many times a week would you like to get together? And she said 3 times a week. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, that works for me. So that was my introduction to personal training. So it's kind of funny because we would get referrals from our group fitness classes as we
Yes.
taught. People would realize, wait a minute, it would be really interesting to work one-on-one with you. Can you help me with my knee, shoulder, hip balance, coordination, whatever it was? And then also from the gym floor, people would approach you saying, I notice you're working together with that person. Can
Yeah.
you also help me? So
Yeah.
it's a great place to get referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was something you and I chatted about. We thought, Deanna, that if we could get more kinesiologists offering specialty classes, so classes for specific populations,
Mm,
then what would happen from there is probably quite likely some semi-private or one-on-one kinesiology sessions where you would be focusing specifically on those people's potential challenges. So that
mhm.
would be interesting.
It would be. And, because it is so interesting. So I managed, well, the group fitness and all of the things in the place that I was, and we were often looking for specialty programs because, we were not for profit. We were there for trying to serve the folks that really needed it. So we had a post cardiac rehab program that, I had overseen for a stretch of time. And again, we were just talking about that just before we started, right? Is the scope of practice. It's so hard to it can be hard to figure out, like, where does the medical or the kin scope end, and where could the personal training begin, right? Or where could the kin scope totally expand? And then as a group fitness instructor, what are some of the specialty classes? Like, there's a specialty program called Bone Fit, right, that would allow you to teach people that have osteoporosis or are at risk for osteoporosis. And so those specialty programs, you can come at them from many different directions. But I just think about many of those types of specialties are outside of a scope of a group fitness instructor and outside of a scope of a personal trainer. So I think about, like, our kins, they could be really designing specific, I don't know, shoulder classes, or, there are definitely some opportunities there because there's a gap in between sort of the medical side. And I kind of lump kinesiology in there, like that medical kind of treatment based side, and then the general fitness population side, which is what, in PT and group fitness, we would see and be certified. And there's just that gap, right? That I just think we need,
Yeah.
and some folks do fill it in, right? There are, but I think there's a huge opportunity for people to really develop a particular specialty and offer classes, but in more of a mainstream. It doesn't have to be at a physio clinic, right?
Mhm.
Walk into a gym, well, soon, hopefully, walk into a gym and ask how many people have knee issues, right?
Yeah.
Well, you'd have lots of people that would be interested in that type of thing, right? So, and then there's that extra piece of saying, well, can I command a group? Can I lead a group? And then that's where it's kind of like, actually, you'd want to pair your group fitness cert with all that right? To blend those two and figure out really what are the things I need to create that specialty program.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So many questions here. So I think first, and Emma and Catherine, jump in any time here if anything comes to mind. But I think one of my first questions is, when you were teaching group fitness leaders through the program, or as you teach them at Sheridan, what are some of the kind of limitations to scope of practice or core competency that you talk about? Because I'd like to talk about that, and then what you see as the personal trainer scope and core competency. And then I'd like to talk about the kin scope and core competencies and see if we could figure out where we could all work together. And then next, how kins could approach the fitness industry to say, we really do have, we can't say a specialty, but we can say a focus or a niche or a passion for working with people with
Mhm.
knee, hip, shoulder,
Yeah.
post-acute rehab situations. So
Yeah, well, I think it's been interesting. The evolution of scope of practice has not changed in my experience. So I started teaching trainers so I used to teach, I'm from Hamilton, and we have Mohawk College is here. So I used to teach in their Con Ed program, the group fitness and fitness theory and PT. And so that was a heck of a long time ago, to be honest. And the scope of practice has really been the same, because we are certified to work with sort of, and I say regular people, meaning we don't have any really specific health conditions. We don't have any chronic, I mean, they may, and they've had doctor's clearance for that. So I just go back to the PARQ and say, the people that answer no to all those questions, those are the folks that we're able to work with. And if they've answered yes, and then they have their medical clearance and their doctor says, you may do this, 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 then we can continue to work, right? And then it's just outside of that, we talk about those. I just finished teaching a personal training course last week, and we talk about a lot of different injuries. And the reason we talk about them is because I say, you're often the first line of somebody to get somebody the care that they need. We were talking about hypertension, and I had a woman that came in for a fitness consultation one time, a young woman. And I said, how's your general health? And she said, well, sometimes I don't feel great, but, trying to weed that out is so hard. And I checked her blood pressure. It was 200/105. And I said to her, can you please call your family doctor right now? Because and she'd never had her blood pressure taken. And so we, again, I can't treat blood pressure, but we are the first line, right? And I think that's the piece. People see their personal trainer and their group fitness instructor more than they see their doctor.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we have the knowledge about, when somebody, my favorite is, I got a little something in my shoulder, right? I'm like,
that's right.
Tell me more about that little something. And then, I say, well, and we explore it a little, think, okay, I mean, we can always recommend those basic first aid things. And then you recommend that referral, get to your doctor and move forward from there, right? So we want to know about those things, but we cannot treat those things, right? So and I think for the most part, injury and whatnot, I do see people being quite diligent at staying within their scope. The one area I don't see is nutrition. I see a lot of trainers going outside of their scope with nutrition. None of the folks I teach, because we're very clear on all that, right? But, but it is something we have to be careful, right? In terms of what we're allowed to suggest or information we're allowed to give.
So I'm curious, because that's an area that we're diving into as kinesiologists, is exploring that nutrition piece. And where would you draw the line? Where do you say, okay, you can talk about X, but you can't talk about Y? Where does that sit for you in the personal training group fitness world?
Yeah, so the modules that I teach now are both for group fitness and CPTN and personal training are with CPTN, so the Certified Professional Trainers Network. And for a long time, and still, people think of them only for personal training because they're awesome. And I also always add, because you can also get your group fitness certification through them as well. And what we are able to talk about is Canada's Food Guide, right? That's a recognized document that any of us could chat about. And then beyond that, we need to refer to whomever is in your circle, right? I often will say, check with your family doctor, because many family doctors do have a dietitian that work with them. And we have the conversation of, what are the other avenues? Like, do you want to look for a holistic nutritionist? And we talk about a protected title versus not a protected title. So it's the education around who is certified to do what, right? And then they need to explore that part for themselves in the direction they'd like to go with that.
That's great, because that kind of jives what I was thinking. So that's good to know that that's what is actually being taught. And what we're learning is that kinesiologists have a massive essential competency ability around nutrition that we simply aren't aware of. So when we dive into that a little more clearly, it's quite interesting that we then could work with that personal training client or that group fitness client participant, take them another whole section of the way. And then if we notice particular red flags, we would then refer as well. So it's a neat process that would work really well.
It would. And we've been talking about these gaps and the worst feeling in the world for me is not knowing where to send a client. Like, I know I'm your answer for whatever, when somebody's saying, hey, I've got this, that, or the other, and then not knowing what to do for them, right? And that I find really hard, because they've built that rapport with you, they trust you, they look to you for answers. So like we've talked about, is building that network of saying, oh, you need, a little bit more nutrition information. That would be awesome. I didn't know that our, kins could broaden that scope and talk about that, right? So
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. So that's something we'll explore further together and separately, just so that we're able to provide that support for personal trainers and group fitness instructors. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Questions from Emma and Catherine, because I can just keep going with questions. So I don't I don't want to run over the two of you if anything's come up for you so far. Nothing for now. Okay. All right. Don't be afraid to speak up and interrupt me. So the next thing I was thinking about is just looking at the area of scope of practice or sphere of competence for a group fitness leader. I'm not very familiar with that. I did my YMCA group fitness leader instruction in university as well, because that's how I was explaining, that's how I could make it through a step class in university, was if I taught it. So that's what I did for extra money, and to make sure that I wouldn't mess up, because I'd already memorized what I was going to be doing next.
Yeah.
But even being a kin student, I pictured this as being very separate. I didn't really develop one-on-one relationships with the people in my class. It was just kind of a casual meet and greet. Let's get started. Okay, class is over. See you next week kind of thing.
Yeah.
What would you say there? Is there anything further or beyond the leadership role that you might recommend?
In terms of group fitness, is that what you mean? Like
Yeah.
Well, when you and I were chatting the other day, and I was saying I always had, and this isn't specific to me, it is specific to the industry. We were always looking for group fitness instructors. There were many personal trainers, but good qualified group fitness instructors that could teach a variety of classes were really hard to come by. And so that is something that, I say to people, and then, the students I connect with at Sheridan, and I said, because I taught group fitness within the KIN program. And, I said to them, if you think about it, like, go ahead and get certified as a group fitness instructor, because you can continue to do that to help supplement your income. And the number of people you meet and the things that you learn, right? And what a great opportunity when somebody says, oh, I have you're planning on doing a bird dog on your group fitness class, and they're like, well, I had a knee replacement. Well, then great. You're going to know how to modify that, right? As a group fitness instructor, we have to have the modification knowledge, but we don't have the, and it's hard when you've had lots of experience. You're like, well, I know what they're supposed to do and not do, but I'm not allowed to say that. So we have to be really careful of that, right? So then I offer you a standing option, but it is a really interesting process to think about how you could become certified. And if, again, people are looking at being a group fitness instructor, I invite you to think about finding one that gives you an opportunity to teach a number of classes. And yes, full transparency, I really like the CPTN one, and that's the one I often recommend, because you could take that and you could teach a high-low choreography type class, and then people will kind of laugh and go, really, that's so 90s. I know, but we know the industry cycles back. It'll come back, and we need to know how to make that choreography. And come on, it's just fun.
So much fun.
I know. But also you can then teach a boot camp, a muscle class, a Tabata class, all of those, because you learn the warm-up, the cardio component, the cardio cool down, the muscle conditioning, and the cool down and relaxation. You learn all of those, then you can take it out or put them in as you need, as the class dictates. And, my other, I guess, concern I often have is some of the specialty certifications might teach you how to use a particular piece of equipment, maybe, but it doesn't necessarily go into how to design an appropriate warm-up, the cardio piece, or how to use that, or the muscle conditioning component. How do I put that together for flow? Like, it is not easy to take 30 people and have them moving at the same time in the same, and have it a great, fun, engaging class. And it's it's harder than it looks, and the great ones make it look easy. That's why it looks so easy, right? So when I say to, people, if they're thinking about that, really explore what will allow me to kind of teach general classes. And then if you really like, I don't know, other pieces of equipment or specialty components, then explore those. And know where you think you might want to teach, because if you get certified in like TRX, for example, which is an awesome piece of equipment, but what if you work somewhere that doesn't have a TRX, right? You want to make sure that your money is spent in a skill that's as versatile as possible. So yeah, so it's some, some things to think about. And then, what a great blend, right? What a great blend of teaching skills, and then all the things within the kin cert that you've, or registration, I should say, that you've learned, right?
Yeah, it's really neat because I was just thinking about the parallels between learning how to conduct a very good fitness class,
Yes.
and at the same time conducting a very good one-on-one or small group client session. It has the same arc, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, then you have the ability to work with 30 people. You have the ability to work with 3 or 1. And so you then would be able to understand how to bring a kettlebell in, or resistance bands in, or dumbbells, or things like that, that you would learn in that group fitness instructor environment, and then just pop it out into your kin experience. And you already have that additional rehabilitation knowledge that would complement that. So then you would get into those more focused client areas of the shoulder, the hip, the knee replacement, the ankle, post-acute injury rehab, return to play sort of classes. And then it's the market fun of trying to figure out where are the niches, and approaching a fitness center to say, here are the skills that I have. Could we develop some specialty programs? Where are your members? What are you hearing from your trainers? Could we design something that we were discussing, Deanna, that you would offer something to members who are already paying for their membership? So this would be a class that would fall into the existing schedule. But from there, Deanna was saying, what a great place to get referrals for one-on-one group, one-on-one work or small group work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're showing your skills for an hour at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a great lead generation opportunity, right? You get up in front of a whole bunch of people, and, then they each often will then connect and say, hey, I'd like a little more. And you can put in those pieces, right? Put in an exercise for balance, or, hip mobility, or something, as a great thing for folks anyway, because we all need that. And then that can be the piece. Then somebody says, oh yeah, I really felt tightness there. What else do I do? Right? So great opportunity. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, Emma.
Okay. I was thinking it's also especially good now for like during COVID, when you're all on a different camera, you're all in a different room. Like you do need to have that, like, I'm watching your screen and seeing that you're doing it this way.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because I'm in a virtual gym, and so we have, some days could be upwards of 30, 40 people and one trainer.
Wow.
So it's like you're doing the same moves, and so they can watch, but like they're all these little tiny little squares.
yes.
And some days there's only like 10 people. So it really depends on who's training and what they're watching out for.
Yeah, it's a very good point. So you have to have eagle eyes, and also encourage people to speak up if they are noticing something that you can't see, for example, giving them permission to speak up.
We had to really empower our client. Not that we weren't empowering them before, but we've really had to. And I have some folks that are, sometimes they don't want to turn their cameras on. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I can't force you to, but you know what I mean? It's tricky. So then I say, okay, then our conversation, our deal is that when I check in, you need to check in. What, I use RPE scale now more than I have ever used in my whole life, right? Because a couple folks have heart rate monitors or have gadgets, right? But a lot of people don't. So yeah, it's a whole new world, as they say, for sure.
It's interesting because those gadgets, I've just been doing some digging and eagerly awaiting Apple's new iWatch coming out in the fall, where we'll now be able to check heart rate variability oxygen saturation and glucose levels.
Yeah.
How amazing for feedback, right?
Yeah, I know. It boggles my mind. Well, I think about the first, I used to teach. So I was also certified by CSEP for quite a stretch of time, and they used to have certified fitness consultant. Was that what it was called? And
A
you were
CFC,
certified. Yeah. Right. So you did the step test and I can still hear that up 2, 3, down 2, 3, right? Kind of going over through my head. And yeah, when we had to all the things, right? And
all the things.
it's just now it's, okay, what's happening now? I mean, it's amazing to see what's on. Yeah. It's funny.
That was a huge part of my business, was fitness appraisals. And of course we do that for every new member coming in, whether you're taking fitness class or not. So what we did was we offered a complimentary fitness evaluation when you started with us as a fitness class client.
Right.
And then we would also offer every year, if they stayed with us, every year they got a free fitness evaluation, which took 30 minutes. It was not difficult to do. We could bring in and train people to do that with us.
Yes.
And we would inevitably find other things, which meant that they could become a personal training client because we would find issues with their step test. Did you know this is happening as you step up and down? So it's a really nice piece to do fitness evaluations and group fitness leadership as a way of generating other clients. And I was just thinking, Catherine, being in a physiotherapy environment, it would be a neat product to offer to the physiotherapy group to say, what if we invited the clients in this particular group to join us for a class? And you might say that perhaps you don't charge the clients for that class, but there's a very good chance that as you're teaching the class, you're doing your functional screening because of the movements that you're putting into the class. And that then becomes a small group training course that you could charge for 4 to 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, so we actually had some kind of plans for things like that in the works, and then COVID kind of just shut them all down. Like I actually became Bone Fit certified like a few months ago, and I was like all excited to maybe like start up a class. And then we're actually like connected to a gym, so we do like a lot with the neighboring gym. And like COVID, the boss basically just doesn't want to do any group stuff like during COVID, obviously. So waiting for gyms to reopen hopefully soon.
Oh, good for you. That's awesome.
That's really, really good. Good thinking. Good thinking. So what other certifications, Deanna, do you think would be helpful? We've got personal training, we've got group fitness instruction. The other thing that we wanted to touch upon this evening was talking about health coaching and looking at that as an opportunity. So maybe you can speak to your experience with health coaching and how you added that to your suite of services and what that's meant for you.
Absolutely. And we've talked a little bit more too about coaching and how it's the parallels between this young industry of coaching are so similar to the personal training industry when it was starting. And I've had the same people say, you're a life coach? Well, what are you again? Like Oprah, like comes up again. And, it's something that is really an interesting field, and there's so much. The waters are very muddy, right? Because the puppies are starting to bark upstairs. I apologize. The field is really muddy. So when we talk about wanting to be a coach or become a coach, there's sometimes that's in reference to athletics or like your NCCP or whatever the case is, and the health coach side of things often, not always, but often can be kind of a standalone type of certification I have seen in some areas. And we were chatting a little bit before about like the coaching certification that I had gone to is a life and entrepreneurial coaching both. And really, it is kind of a general coaching framework that helps you figure out, because you're obviously not correcting client technique, you're actually helping people move through different challenges that they have. And what we often say is kind of get out of our own way, right? Because it's usually us that's in our way of our progress. And really help people get where they want to go. there are, some pretty specific frameworks that we can use. There are really strategic questions that help. My favorite thing when I'm coaching is a client that says, "Oh, I didn't think of it like that." And that's where, then things start to open and we start to see things a little bit differently. So I know that in my own business now, that is the coaching and the fitness education blend really well, because I was training for so long, personal training, and we'd be on the treadmill, clients doing her warm up, and she would be sharing things like, I'm also having trouble at work, or I'm having trouble in this relationship, and it's the reason I can't get to the gym. And I kept thinking, how do I help them? Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to help them be well, more sort of overall, using kind of the physical wellness tool. But I knew something was missing, and that's kind of when I started exploring other things. And it was coaching that I had come to, and in particular, the one I work with it's a 6-component of wellness model. So we dig into the kind of all areas of wellness, physical being one, and figure out where the client feels he, she, or they are struggling or lacking, and then they set goals around that to move, help things kind of move forward that way. And sometimes it is fitness based, and sometimes it's not. So often what happens is you have that coaching framework, and then you blend your specialty. I know specialty is not something that y'all can work, but you bring your kind of your particular experience, right? And you can blend things together, right? And start to say, using these coaching frameworks. And I have colleagues that are like a grief coach, or a wellness coach, or all of these different things, right? Or a business coach, and you can kind of blend those things. So that has really offered another layer of services and support for clients to help them move forward overall, right?
It's a great idea, because one of the things that we're exploring right now with our company is taking a look at cultural sensitivity training and motivational interviewing. So how do we actually learn these soft skills so we can really relate to clients and be sensitive to what they're facing that we may not see from our own perspective and place in the world? And then how do we either begin to counsel them or realize, I don't have the skills and abilities, and I do need to make my client aware of that and say, I am going to find someone within my circle, whether it be a grief counselor, psychotherapist, a financial counselor, someone like that who can help them through the next step. And I think, as you mentioned, having those discussions with clients to say, I'm sorry, this is hard for you. I'm sorry you're challenged by this. And I will do my best to see if I can find someone to at least take you the next step, and maybe their network will have what you need.
Yes. And it's not at all unlike the fitness scope of practice, right? Clients or potential coaching clients, I always do they often call it a discovery call, but I always do a little bit of an interview to find out if first of all, for a good fit, like anything, right? You need to, your personalities and whatnot need to be complementary to make sure it'll be a great relationship in terms of the coach client. But also to find out, one of the other things that I have is, of course, my mental health first aid training. I think that is just so important. And then additionally, some of the other things I know, again, when I started coaching, I had many clients that were sharing, and we have to be really clear. That's why I always encourage people to make sure, whatever organization you're choosing, there are many, one of the first questions, do they have a code of ethics? How do they decide? Because the coaching and counseling, again, those waters can be muddy, because a coaching client might share they have some trouble with anxiety. So I actually did a little bit of CBT training so that I could add that in again. And then the line is for me, is very black and white to say, okay, now you need a referral. And coaching and counseling work really well together, because counseling and therapy is often about what has happened in the past and helping somebody through that unpacking process. And then coaching is really about the now and the next, and I always say to folks, like, I'm so sorry this happened. And my job as a coach is to help you move forward. So what do you want now, right? Where will we go now? with honoring all of those things, and moving forward. And if you need more assistance, of course, that's when that kind of mental health practitioner is really needed. And then where do we go, right? Because that's really about that forward future focus, right?
Makes a lot of sense. And as kinesiologists, as personal trainers, as group fitness leaders, recognizing when someone is stuck in a thought loop that's not productive. So they're revisiting a traumatic event or series of events, whether it's related to a physical injury, an emotional injury that may be influencing them physically, and understanding, okay, I see you. I'm not trained to help you with this, but I can help you with the following. And I am not going to forget that, or I am going to be mindful that you need help in the place that you're in right now. So let's see if we can do our best to find someone to help you process this, so that our work together is going to be what you need according to the goals that you've set. But we may not be able to adequately address your future goals if you're having some challenges here and now.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I have said to, I have had one client in particular that was struggling with some mental health issues and wanted to work. And I said, it's also about destigmatizing that whole process. If I was a personal trainer and my client had a rotator cuff injury, I would ask them to, you need to go to physio. What does physio or kin or who, that medical professional, what do they say I can still do? No, great. Let's do a lower body program while you, and, then we look at the other side to say, me as your coach, you need some support here. Then go talk to your therapist and say, hey, what does he, she, or they think is a good idea about, us continuing to work on this, like to try to just make the parallel between those fields and really normalizing that, like, nobody's upset, nobody's embarrassed to go to physio. So let's normalize going to therapy and normalize having a coach, right? That can help us move forward in a more well-rounded piece, right? So when we can figure out how to bring all of these services somehow together, right? Like imagine that jackpot for our client, right? When they can be supported like that. So yeah, I don't know, somehow we'll figure out how to
figure it out.
bring it all together.
And like you were saying with your the 6 components of wellness, like developing that kind of wellness wheel, for example, and saying, here are all the components that every human has to juggle and all the time, whether it's sleep, nutrition, mental wellness, relationships, physical health, financial wellness, let's say. And so doing that bit of an inventory on each one, and it could be, a preface to a discovery call saying you expressed interest in working together. Let's start out by just seeing if we do have a connection. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're looking for in a personal trainer, health coach, kin relationship. And then from there, if we think we have some symbiotic thoughts about how we might move forward, then doing that initial inventory so that I can get a feel for what our initial session together might look like. And so I would know when I need to flag certain areas for referral, because we can touch upon so many things: nutrition, sleep, general fitness, rehabilitation. We can address all of those things, and they are distinct, but all part of a well human. So
yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the pieces that I really, the coaching piece really spoke to me, because it's a little bit interesting when you could say, well, if I was to say I was a financial coach, well, I would need more training in that space. But really, I can help people with that financial wellness piece, because the coaching models really believe that people already have their answers. They already know intuitively what the answer is. However, their programming from how they were raised, their current situation, like all of these things are in the way of them. And it is when, and I have my own coach I've worked with for quite some time now, and I'll have a conversation then, and we'll have a call, and he'll say something and I think, oh, for Pete's sakes, like that was right in front of me, but I didn't see the forest for the trees, because you need somebody to zoom out and just move you along with some of those questions to help you think just that little bit differently and see things that were right there. And then you can take those types of questions and model and apply it in so many other areas, like sleep. I'm not a sleep expert, but I can certainly talk about what you're struggling with. You can share some of those struggles, and I can ask you those coach-based questions that can help you go, oh, that's probably the thing that's bugging me right now, and I can work on that, right? So these things work so well together, for sure.
I think they really do. And it's very interesting that we could talk about day-to-day habits with a client without needing to understand the deep physiology behind the habit.
Yes.
Perhaps. So physiology will change as we address the habit. The kin role, we could address the physiology, and we can address the nutrition also behind the physiology. But we may need a health coach, we may need a personal trainer, someone who actually works on the habit reporting, the habit feedback piece, while we addressed something that was far more narrow or in a particular niche with that client. So you could see how you could have a personal trainer working on general wellness and fitness. Kinesiologist would be looking at motor pattern repatterning for the shoulder. And then that person may also see a psychotherapist, a CBD trained practitioner. But all of these people need to communicate to say, hey, how's it going over there?
Yes.
Are you bumping into any walls that I can help out with? Do we need to go back to a family physician and ask for blood work, or we need to ask an opinion for a dental consult if we've got problems with recurring headaches and eye pain and dizziness that we can't explain, so coming at it from all the angles that none of us can be expected to address in a 1-hour session, however many times a week, if we're able to have even like a check-in page with the client's consent to say, all right, let's just take a look every 3 weeks, and we're just going to see where are we with all of these different metrics and correct and keep going.
And I find as somebody's kinesiologist, as somebody's fitness pro, like, you just develop such a great professional relationship, and a relationship built on that trust and rapport, that when they're having this other challenge, and you can say, hey, have you thought it might be the dentist? Have you seen your dentist? Like, when we can be that person that is just that initial suggestion of, have you ever considered chatting with a therapist about this? Have you ever, because what you're sharing with me, I honor it. And it's not something that it is safe for me to help you with, because I don't have that, and just making that sort of suggestion to really help people. And then it comes from that place of, they are obviously already trust you if they're working with you like that, right? That we could be the one that actually gets them on the path to that more sort of full healing process too.
Yeah, exactly. Just by saying, I see this barrier for you. You may not see it, but I'm seeing it, and I'm hearing about it.
Hearing it. Yes, I am.
So let's unpack that for a minute and a half and see where you are with that. And are you willing to consider addressing it, or is it just not that time for you at this point?
For sure.
And then, we would document, okay, we discussed this. The client isn't ready for a referral, but now you've dusted it off for them.
Yeah, you planted that seed. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Any questions or any comments that have come up, Emma or Catherine, for Deanna as we've been chatting?
I was just thinking about like senior specific like group fitness classes.
Yep.
I know that Western had one with like their senior aging
Center for Activity and Aging is that one. Yep.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, do you think you need to get like specific for that, like a niche like that, or do you think like a regular group fitness and then like specializing maybe later is a better option? Or
yeah, it's a great question. So if I had somebody that was brand new to the fitness field, then I would suggest they get their group fitness certification. And then I would suggest that they specialize with something like the Center for Activity and Aging. I have not taken that course myself. Whereas somebody like yourself that has so much additional training, I would encourage you to look at, where do you feel your gaps might be? Is it leading a class, but you have a whole bunch of aging information from your schooling, right? Or is it, I am really comfortable leading a class, but I don't know enough about seniors. So exploring where your strengths lie really is a great option initially, and then kind of moving forward. I would suggest the feedback I have heard about that course is that some of the information maybe doesn't translate in terms of taking it right into the how will I say, like right into the class. So if it's the class formation that you're not sure about and whatnot, then maybe considering that group fitness certification piece might be the way to start perhaps. So, but it would be good to explore it again. I haven't actually looked at it for a long stretch of time now, actually.
Yeah, I know they're not running them right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering.
Mhm.
I am more geared towards like seniors and like all those things. So like for me to go like just group fitness and then go back, it's kind of like a
Yeah.
double whammy.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So look at where your strengths lie already, and then just say, like, what do I need to add on here? And, I don't know the answer to this, but does your kin degree cover the scope of working with older adults as in the way that you want? Right.
Right.
I don't know about that. So checking into that piece, and then the extra piece is always for me is finding out what does the insurance company cover, because that is can be a rigmarole, right? To be perfectly
Right.
honest.
Yeah.
Like when virtual fitness hit, oh my goodness, trying to get insurance was tricky. And there's a scope of in my classes, I'm only allowed to have as many people as I can see on the screen, and you may not go, like, there's a whole so check out what the insurance will cover you for.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was wondering if mental health is in the kin scope at all, or if that's just an automatic kind of referral out. Like, are we allowed to give general mental health advice, or?
Yes, I believe you all
Yeah.
are able to give general mental health advice in terms of understanding anxiety and depression and looking for those flags for those conditions and understanding that a referral is necessary because a client is presenting with these symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And you
But
probably
not so much like the coaching of it, like that's, you just have to recognize the flags and then the referral.
I think that what I might do personally is I have often phoned family physicians with the client's consent and said, I'm seeing some consistent symptoms of anxiety and or depression. Or depending upon the client, if there's some, I think probably to be on the safe side, I think anxiety and depression would be as far as I might journey. I have a bit more experience in personality disorders and things like that, but that's not, I wouldn't say within the kin scope of practice, but physiologically, I think we understand anxiety and depression. And I think that from that perspective, you could speak with the family physician saying, it's been this long, I'm seeing these symptoms coming up, and I would just like some direction. So here are the daily habits of mindfulness and awareness that we've been talking about. But I wanted to bring it to your attention in case you wish to address it further with a referral to counseling or medication if that's warranted. So I think you could acknowledge that you see it with a client and speak with them about whether or not they would need further help to navigate it. So the mental health first aid, I think, would give you the background information that you would need in conjunction with your understanding of neurology and physiology from kinesiology. And then from there, probably turning to a family physician for suggestions.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions? I'm looking at my list of things that we were going to be chatting about. Deanna, is anything else coming up for you?
I don't think so. No, I think we've kind of touched on the areas we had thought about.
All right. I just want to ask you, in closing, can you tell us a little bit more about how you are teaching the group fitness certification and what's involved with that?
Mhm.
I'm curious if KINs were interested in turning to the program at Sheridan or CPTN's program. What
Mhm.
might that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So the piece at Sheridan, it's embedded within their program. So it's their third year, first semester that I teach that one automatically. And they don't, they get the experience, but they don't come out with the group fitness certification unless there's a couple extra steps. They certainly can, and I encourage them to. But yeah, the group fitness course itself through CPTN is generally over 2 weekends, and it is, you know, we look at so I should say also for already certified personal trainers, there's a bit of a shortened course. So I would definitely have a conversation with Lucinda at CPTN just to find out, you know, where we sort of fit within that in terms of what else they might look for. So if you have a kin degree, can you just slot into the 2-day course? Because the 2-day course is about designing the class, right? And
Right.
we get into all of that program design, and then of course the first weekend typically is all the anatomy and whatnot that you all would have anyway. But we just have it set up to be for CPTN already certified personal trainers. They can slot right in. So I'm sure it's an option. I just don't know the logistics of that. So it would be like a 1 or 2 weekend course. Or, you know, in the summer, I'm offering over a couple of afternoons. So there are actually already in July. We're almost in July, aren't we? Gosh.
Yeah.
We're doing a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon, and then the next following weekend, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday afternoon. It is still virtual at this point, which has been interesting, but it's been a lot of fun. You know, the fitness field has pivoted to be online. And this past term for Sheridan, I taught the group fitness module online, and it, you know, we would prefer to be in person, but we, you know, of course we had to be online. And I said to them, you know, you're actually getting a pretty good opportunity here because you'll be able to figure out how to do it online. And if we, heaven forbid, but if we have to go back in this model, you'll have those skills as well, right? So you've got that to experience. Because to be honest, I think there's a lot of people in the fitness field that are going to stay virtual. You know, I think there's a lot, I have a lot of clients right now. They said, no, I don't want to come back in person. I'm happy here. This is what I want to, you know, do. It works for me. And so I don't know. I think this has really changed the field for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how it rolls. But yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I know a lot of group fitness leaders who scramble between multiple gyms and they just hop on their bike and go to the next class at the next
Yep.
fitness facility that they teach. And they might teach, as we were talking about, Deanna, they might teach 20 to 25 classes a week. And
Yeah, which is a lot.
which is a lot.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I know. And that's probably a little bit too much. I know I tore my a whole bunch of tissue in my hip actually when I was teaching way too many classes, and it was a step class, pivoted, turned, and I'm like, oh, that felt funny. And you know, that was kind of it. So we want to make sure, and that was one of the other reasons I sort of brought coaching into, you know, I'm in my mid 40s. I'm not going to be able to teach boot camp and HIIT for decades. You know, maybe I'll be 80 and still doing that, and that's amazing.
Sure.
But also we need something, right, that complements all of the physical side of things. You know, coaching pivoted really easy. We were already on Zoom before the pandemic hit. So, you know, it was something also that was, you know, already here. So it's a great compliment too.
Oh, interesting. And then just to finish our discussion, what's involved in a health coaching certification? How does that look?
Yeah, so the coaching model, again, the organization I'm most familiar with is the Certified Coaches Federation, and it's not a health coaching specialty. It's like the general coaching, life and entrepreneurial coaching. So it's actually a weekend course that sets you up with all of the initial frameworks and whatnot that you need. And then there's actually 5 different levels. There's leadership coaching, there's group coaching, because group coaching is, you know, also kind of the way of, I think the way coaching is going to go, groups of people online together. So there's quite a few different models within that, but you can get started with the frameworks for a weekend course actually. So, which at first I was like, really? And then I took it and I thought, yeah, Monday morning, I'm absolutely comfortable putting a lot of these practices in play. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
So this would be great for kinesiologists as you move through your career and as you kind of do that continuing education plan and that career mapping. We often talk about reverse engineering your career. Where would you like to be optimally? And then you just say, okay, let me back that up, whether that's
Yeah.
annually, quarterly, monthly. And you just say, okay, these are the different training programs that I would like to do over the next however many years, and plan it out, because you may want to do your planning in 5-year chunks, which makes a lot of sense because time goes by very quickly. And you'll be amazed at how many skills you're able to amass over the course of your career. And sometimes it'll be a client that points you to the next step. You think, wow, that was really interesting. Or I have no idea how to work with that client. I'm going to chase that down because it's interesting to me, or I'm going to refer that client because it's just not resonating with me. So those clinicians that you meet, mentors that you meet, clients that you meet will help you to give a bit of a rudder to your journey.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Deanna. Emma and Catherine, do you have any other questions that you may have popped up for Deanna?
I was thinking about like setting up people's home gyms, because like when you're at a fitness facility, you would have whatever the gym has, so like
Yep.
8 10s. So I mean, I know people can do whatever, modify, but like what would you say are like 5 top things or something that people should have for their home gyms?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right as the pandemic hit and we couldn't find any equipment, I actually went for my group fitness folks. I bought a bunch of mini bands and bender balls, you know, the squishy Pilates balls, and was able to design programs with that. Lots of body weight, but I would encourage, again, depending on their goals, but if they can get a couple of, hand weights are really versatile. So if they can get some hand weights, depending on whatever you would deem appropriate for them. The Pilates ball I really like. You can do a lot of stuff with that, and they store really well. That's the other thing to think of at home. And then obviously like a yoga mat, and then resistance bands would be great too. Those are things that you can really, you can do a full body. I mean, I'm not going to, be building a whole heck of a lot of mass with that, but it definitely, that's what I've been using with my clients for the last 1.5 years, and we've had some good success. So.
Yeah, I love that list. And the other thing that I would add really simply is just a chair and a broomstick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're ready to go, because then with the broomstick you're able to teach overhead squats and deadlifts and cleans, jerks, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can start to train some of those functional mechanics that you can then load different ways as people develop. Yeah, that's great. That was a great question.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know like I bought like an adjustable kettlebell because my gym was using like kettlebells and a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
And I loved using them. So I bought one that adjusts from 5 pounds to 40 pounds.
Oh, very good.
Great.
So like I can do anything with it. I could take them off, use those as by themselves, or
Yeah, that's great.
Neat. Yeah. I didn't know that they made adjustable kettlebells.
there's a bunch of them. And they range, they're different. Mine I think was like $150. I bought it just before Christmas, so it was my Christmas present.
Nice.
I like that.
But like I use it all the time, and to buy a kettlebell, anything that was heavier, it's gonna be like that price for it. So
Yeah.
I figured I might as well get 5 to 40 pounds and pay one price.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you for this. We will post this recording, and then if anything comes up for either of you, Catherine or Emma, as you're thinking through our conversation this evening, let me know and I can pass that along to Deanna for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can always find me, DeannaLangfordCoaching.com or Instagram, all of that there. Yeah, and same email address is the same. So yeah,
great.
absolutely.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time this evening, and I know we are going to be in touch in the future. I have no.
Yeah, absolutely. We
No
have some
doubt.
interesting ideas to, create these great big client serving opportunities, I think.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for joining us this evening, and we will reconnect again very soon.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.